Hi, Annie. So excited to have you today for our interview and talking about the experiences we shared together, all the exploration and learning about Tantra, about Tantric practices, healing partnership, relationship of the future
All the things.
paradigm. So I'm really excited to talk to you and thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Of course, it is my honor. I had so much fun. I think that every single thing we did had a powerful impact on both my life and business, my personal life. It was just as though it hit every part of what I needed to work on.
Amazing. Yeah, can't wait to open up all the topics.
Love it.
Yeah, let's start with like very beginning. Why did you decide to explore Tantra, work with me, where you were at the time when we started working together? If you want to share a little bit of that.
Well, when we started working together, I think I had sort of completed my divorce process, and I knew that in order to move forward in any relationship, I would need to be more connected to my divine feminine, but I would also need to work through some of the, I would say, like sexual trauma pieces that I had experienced in my past relationship. Because if we don't, we're just doomed to repeat them in the next one. So I was like, what is the
Mhm.
fastest way that I can get super deeply connected to myself, to really explore my sexuality, to make sure that I am working through trauma patterns in a healthy way and that I had support to do it. So I think, and I can't remember exactly how we were connected, but I just remember when I met you, I was like, yep, this is the lady. She's got it dialed in because you're so beautiful at balancing the masculine and the feminine and holding space. And, as a coach myself, right? I needed that. And it's very hard to find in this world with someone that you also trust. And that was who you were for me.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is very intimate work. We really
Very.
connect on a deeper level, and it's in a way like being confidante in people's life and women's life, and just holding space in the very sensitive and intimate areas, right?
But we need that as women. I
Yeah.
mean, if we don't have someone like you in our lives, how do we even function? That's what I realized after going through this with you. I was like, this is an absolutely essential investment that we all make in ourselves. It's just we don't even know that we need it sometimes.
Mm. Yeah, it's so important that you're emphasizing on this because many women just like focus on business, doing all these external things. But this is where even our business starts, right? With us, how we show up, how we feel inside, actually. It's how things unfold for us, right? It's quantum physics, right? It's like we're talking about like Joe Dispenza work, like he talks about it's like it's how you feel. That's
Yes.
the most important, right? The shifting that internal experience and then everything will line up
Flow. Everything
aligned.
flows and lines up from that
Yeah.
internal experience. And if you're not feeling connected and congruent to yourself and you don't even explore who you really are at that core level, your business isn't going to make as much money. Your health isn't going to be as good. I mean, there are just so many things that are linked to how you feel. And that's
Mm.
why I think the work you do is so essential for women and
Yeah.
for men. I mean, I'm sure that many, many men's lives have been changed. I know a couple of my friends that are working with you now, they absolutely love it and they're men and they're working on
Yeah. Yeah, it's
becoming,
amazing that men are now jumping in and joining us on this, doing this
thank
work.
goodness. Thank goodness.
Because we need both, right?
We do. We do.
So tell me a little bit about your experience with Tantra, because many people have this kind of like vague understanding or a little bit distorted understanding of Tantra is. So what did you learn? How do you define it for yourself? And how the Tantric work helped you on your exploration and healing?
Well, I would say, at the beginning it seems very mystical, right? Because you don't really know everything that it is. But if you're looking at it in like a simple way, it's a way of connecting to your sexuality through your breath work and through the energy that you create. And I don't know if that's a perfect definition, but that's sort of what I thought about it ahead of time. And I think what I realized over time and over practice, because the key is you got to practice. You got to do what
Mm.
Lana says. Otherwise, you're the whole key is you got to practice. And so what I loved about it was I started doing the Tantra date nights with myself, right? Because I didn't have a partner at the time, nor did I have a healing partner. And so I was like, all right, well, this just gives me a chance to really like ease into what it feels like to love me and to enjoy that exploration and to be, really open with myself, because I think that there's so many things that are socially conditioned on us around our sexuality or how we feel about ourselves sexually or the energy that we create sexually. And I think Tantra gave me the chance to explore in a really healthy, beautiful, loving dynamic. And what I noticed that came out of that was I feel much more comfortable in my body. I feel like I have access to greater power, say when I'm on stage or when I'm around other people. I feel like I can pull on what I learned from Tantra and connecting with myself so deeply to go out into the world and to be more of who I am, sort of unapologetically. And I think
Mm.
in the past, I would have felt like, oh, um, I can't be this sexually connected to who I am in the world because the world will judge it or they will
Mhm.
not like it or I won't be accepted for it. But the reality is, the sexual component of who you are is just an aspect of you that when you enhance it and you bring it together with everything else, it's almost like that catalyst or that supercharger for everything else you're working on.
Mhm.
And I think if you're blocked on that piece of yourself, then you can't be at 100% in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's like life force for like
It
our
is life
feminine
force. It's life
power.
force energy. Well,
Let's
that's
spend
like the
energy.
most beautiful part about it. You're opening up your own life force energy.
Yeah, yeah, so beautiful and powerful. Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, so let's bridge to like healing partnerships. So you said you did explore it on your own, and it's absolutely important for women to do so because nobody really gave us any kind of map or any kind of education about female sexuality specifically because everything is so conditioned. There is no education to
No
start
education.
with,
No.
but whatever we learn from the like society and others, it's just so messy and it's not really aligned with who women are and how we're wired sexually. So it's like deep also exploration of getting to know ourselves. And also each woman is wired differently. Also these
Very true.
aspects of how you're wired and what works for you and discovering these things about yourselves. Like it's really hard to even love ourselves if we don't know ourselves, right? What do we need? Like what is our medicine, right? So this is this piece of tantric exploration for women is about. Like, and Annie was a really good student and practiced everything. So let's talk
Well, why
about
work with somebody who's a genius and expert at this if I'm not going to listen and do exactly what you want me to do, right? I mean, it didn't make
Mhm.
sense in my mind. I'm like, I have to do everything she says, and then I will see amazing results.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's important to commit to. That's why we
Yes,
talk about committing to practicing Tantra for 6 months, and then we'll really see that transformation because it's not really on the verbal level, right? It's the
Mhm.
verbal interaction, verbal therapy can't really reach to that depth if we don't practice. So yes,
Right.
absolutely. um, and then the healing partnership. This is something people is like ask me like, what is this and how does it work? And it starts to become more and more popular as a term, is like, and something people are really curious about. So tell me a little bit
Sure.
more about this piece.
Well, I was really blessed to have, a man in my life that he and I are such good friends. We completely understand each other. We have a similar level of emotional connection. And I'd say as a man, he has a very deep core of emotional connection. It's really important to him. And so when because I wasn't dating anybody, but I, wanted to go a little bit deeper in the Tantra side. So I reached out and I said, how do we coordinate this in a beautiful agreement with each other so that we can really explore in a way that supports both of us and what we both need. And it was the thing that's surprising to most people is it's not like a super sexual thing. It's a super intimate, emotional thing to do. And um, I have to say it was probably the most beautiful experience of my life to do this work with him because it helped me really understand what it feels like to be loved unconditionally and what it feels like for someone to support you when they have no agenda and they have, it's not like you're trying to get something out of the other person. You're literally just there holding space and loving and supporting that person through their breakthrough or through their break open. And it's still to this day one of my absolute favorite experiences that I've had with any man in my life was having that experience in the Tantra work with my healing partner.
Mm. Yeah, it's so beautiful because people think like it's so black and white in our society in terms of relationships, right? So it's either you're single or you're in a relationship, whatever it means, married or dating, having a boyfriend. But
You can be
People.
single and be exploring Tantra and have a healing partnership, with someone
Mm,
who adores you and makes you feel very loved. And it's incredible because I think that's that whole piece of life. Like, for some reason, we've made appreciation of each other as man and woman something that we have to worry about. But when you have good communication, good conversations, you have a good agreement in place, you really talk about what your boundaries are. That's the healthy form of relating. And that's really
mm,
what we should be doing more of in this world, to appreciate each other for who we are. And, the thing that I realized too is it doesn't have to, like, intimacy is not necessarily sexuality.
mm,
Intimacy is like a deep core connecting between two souls.
mm.
And that's something that Tantra, I think, creates more of a safe container for than anything I've ever experienced.
Yeah, yeah. I love to say that intimacy is about truth, right? Beforehand, right? You're becoming so real with each other in each moment, which,
Mhm.
most people are not even trained, right? It's like we ask this question, what is real, right?
Love
So
that.
we're really going deep with that. And yeah, sexuality is it just the wild force that comes through anyway when it it wants to, so we
Yeah.
can't really control it directly, but through opening up deeper and deeper, then we also tap into this deeper roots of our sexuality. And a woman's body doesn't even open up without like emotional intimacy, right?
Oh, it
When we feel
doesn't.
safe with a man who can hold space for us, then our body can open up in an organic way when
And
we
it's a dramatic difference. Like, it
yeah.
is dramatic. I mean, because I just had this experience just recently too, where I was comparing what it's like when you have the Tantra emotional intimacy buildup versus none of that. I mean, it makes sexual connection a whole different level. It takes it to the level of the divine, or like connecting with something much higher. And I think most women, we don't know that because we've never experienced it. But
Mhm.
once you go through this Tantra training and you get to work with someone, you will never want to go back to how it used to be. I mean, it's like it's not even interesting anymore.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of boring, but
It's totally boring to have any kind of normal functional sex. You're like, what was I thinking? Right. But it's just we don't know. And we have to
yeah,
learn about ourselves and learn what this emotional intimacy and this realness, can give us.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's never gets boring there because we don't control anything. We just
Right.
basically allow anything that is there to open up and unfold, and it's like we surrender to the center of the field of attraction, the field of
Yeah.
connection, right, with our partners.
Yeah.
That's so
So
beautiful.
it's so beautiful. I can't say enough good things about it.
I love it. So tell me a little bit more also about the retreat. So the retreat for couples, which is different experience being in the room with other people, right? And you were there with your healing partner, who was, incredible also partner for the group work. So tell me a little bit more about that experience
Well,
because
I am
not
already
more
signed
people.
up for the next experience because the first one was so good. But I feel like if I hadn't done the work with you leading up to it, I don't think I would have gotten as much out of it, or it would have been as powerful, just because I feel like you and I worked so much ahead of time, which really gave me an advantage. And even, talking to the other couples that were there afterwards, they're like, we felt like you took it to a different level because you had done so much work ahead of time. And so if
Mm,
anyone's listening to this, I would strongly recommend doing the work ahead of time before you go even into a
mm,
retreat, because you can get more out of it. But I feel like the retreat itself, it's so epically beautiful to watch people learn how to be vulnerable with each other. And what I love about the way you do it is that we all have, eye coverings on. So you're not in anybody else's experience. You're just in your experience, in your energy for the breath work or the work that you're doing. And then, at the end of that, you'll take your eye cover off and you'll be able to talk about it as a group and talk about your new awarenesses or the breakthroughs that you had. And so it's such a protected, safe, loving environment. And I've honestly never met anybody like you who creates so much profound work and connection and intimacy in a space, because I feel like that doesn't exist in the world. So for me, being in a container like that, with your ability to allow us all to feel so safe and so connected and so heard and so listened to and appreciated, I think that's what takes it to a whole different level. Um, but I loved the retreat. I mean, it makes you feel like you are finally in a room of real people who are 100% trying to be themselves and, showing who they are. And I think that that's when life gets even more interesting, because like we're
Mm-hmm.
in a world where that level of intimacy and connection just doesn't happen that often. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for anyone who's like craving that deep connection with other people and having just an understanding of yourself and how you can relate even more deeply, it's a beautiful experience. I mean, I've
Mm.
now done how many? I mean, I've done 2, and I just can't wait to go
Yeah.
back to the 3rd. I'm like, "When is it happening?"
Yeah,
So,
yeah, can keep growing there,
yeah, I
right?
love it. I love it.
Yeah, and this element, but I also love to add, and maybe you can share a little bit about that as well. Like people say, what is spiritual intimacy? What is that?
Yeah.
But then now we see the science, catching up with this um, kind of understanding of our spirituality. Like science meets spirituality through quantum physics and this
Yes.
quantum psychology. Right now we're talking about
Oh,
all these practices. Like I recently was exploring work of Joe Dispenza. It's like, well, he's
yeah.
actually explains how it physiologically works when you do these practices, how it stimulates like your pineal gland that is like
Yes.
responsible for certain chemicals that are being generated in our body and give us an opportunity to have that mystical experiences. So when we do these practices together with our partner, this is when we can share these experiences with our partner, and this is where I see the walls of separation kind of start to
Oh,
melt away.
yeah, they all melt away, and I think it's because, now we know, right, quantum physics is real, and we know that when you get energies together in a space, the energies, almost, like, expand each other, right? So,
Mm,
I think the thing that really was expansive and beautiful for me was the fact that my healing partner was there, and together the energy that we created was like 10 times the energy that I would have had if it was just me alone.
mhm,
And then when you have couples in the space, you have all that energy of the couples adding to it. So it's creating an
mhm,
even bigger range of healing or process. But the divine aspect of it is so true. It honestly feels like when the energy syncs up, that you are connected to something so much greater than who you
mm,
are in that moment, just as a human being. It's like
mm,
you tap into something that is of higher power.
mm,
Um, and it's hard to explain if people don't feel energy, but it almost feels like you're tapping into unconditional love.
mhm.
That support that is in the environment that's greater than what you could comprehend, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. I love how you explain that. Definitely. Yeah, that's something that we all are capable of experiencing. Even if somebody says,
We
"Oh,
all
I've
are.
never had these experiences on my own," well, it's all about practice, and it's all about, in Tantra we say devotion to this path. Like, okay, something inside of you desires that, and this is the path. It is real, and there are real tools, right? So,
Yeah.
and if it's guided, like it's pretty easy to follow if you're committed, right?
It is, and I think, people have this preconception that you have to take a lot of time and energy to do this work, but just like you said in that question, what's real? Just asking that one question changes the intimacy level that you're about to experience with someone, whether they're a healing partner or your life partner,
Mm,
or just a boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever it is that you have in your life, asking that question allows you both to open up and tell each other what's really on your minds. So I think that the combination, Tantra is this beautiful combination of all these very practical, very real ways to connect more deeply. And then it's also this incredible connection with almost the divine or higher power experience of what life can be from that intimacy of connection with another person. So I mean, if you're looking for a way to more deeply know yourself and to more deeply know your partner, this is the path. Like,
mm,
I sometimes wish I had a partner that I could go into this all with and go even deeper. And honestly, I believe from the work that we've done, that is what called in the partner that I'm now with. If I
mm,
hadn't done a lot of this work and seen the patterns that needed to forever change, I could have been stuck back in the old patterns of what it
mhm,
was like being with my, ex-husband, going through 15 years of very, intense sadness and misery because I wasn't connecting.
mm.
So, I think that Tantra is the answer, like the modern day answer for couples who really want to know themselves and feel that level of connection that they've been craving or wanting or desiring, but they just haven't experienced yet.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I love this both aspects. Like it's for women also who are looking for a new partner and want to break free from the old patterns of attracting somebody that they don't want to attract, right? Because
Well,
something
think about
was
all the
not.
women that you've worked with that have
Mhm.
gone through this training, then they've attracted their partners, right? Because they've shifted their energy in such a beautiful
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, that's just happening like these days. It's just almost like with every single client. It's like, wow, I met somebody. It's like, and it's like in a very short period of time, suddenly somebody shows up. Like there were years and years and years. There's nobody showing up, and suddenly boom. Well, because we do this internal shift, right? And this deeper work. Yeah.
The
And
internal shift is
mhm.
everything.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
everything.
that's the foundation. And then for couples, of course, even if they were like married for like 20 years and they both committed and devoted to shift their relationship, to release those kind of like
Mhm.
patterns in terms of like how things become boring and like doing this this beautiful intimacy piece, but in the same way, like kind of like more rigid, more pattern based, more like, oh, we just that works for us, not exploring. So that can open up the gates of like new experiences and like rediscovering each other and getting to know each other on a deeper level because they just didn't have an opportunity to dive so deep, right?
Well, that's what I think I enjoyed watching most in the other couples at the retreat was watching how they all started from a different place and at the end they ended up so connected and you get to watch them evolve in their level of
Mm,
intimacy and connection with each other. There's no other option when you go through this process than to be more deeply connected at the end of it.
mm,
So, I mean, for all the couples out there that might listen to even to this interview, you know, I had a friend of mine who was observing and participating in this experience, and he was like, "This is the missing thing for all couples." He's like, "If couples had this and you could feel this level of connection daily," he's like, "Imagine how different the world would be." And I
mm,
100% agreed.
yeah.
Because I think a lot of us in society, like we're afraid of that level of deep connection, but we also want it more than anything.
Mm.
And I think this is the healthiest, most loving path to find that.
Yeah, yeah, it's so beautiful. And it's true. I feel this is the pathway to the golden age in our
I
society.
agree.
If everybody feels so, you know, blissful and happy and connected and excited about, and like knowing that it doesn't need to end, you know, this
Right.
exploration basically is infinite because we are infinite beings as well. So it opens us up to like explore, to explore, to co-create, to enjoy life rather than like fight and create wars and all this. So this deep roots in the collective as well.
True.
Yeah. So the last question I want to ask, what's next for you? What
Oh my
you're
goodness.
coming for like
Well,
the third retreat.
I'm gonna be at the next retreat in July, so I can't wait for that. I'm coming back with my healing partner. So I think that's gonna be a really profound experience. And I think, you know, after that, what I'm most looking forward to is, you know, for this new person that I'm dating, I would love to be able to bring him into this environment and let him have this beautiful experience because it is by far the most powerful thing that I've done to connect intimately in my whole life. And
Mm,
so it's I just can't wait for the magic of it.
mhm.
You know, I
Yeah.
think for, you know, anyone who's on the fence or anyone who's wondering like, should I do it? Should I not? Like, sure you can find Tantra out there, but if you work specifically with someone who's an expert like Lana and you have the chance to be held in this beautiful space, there's no way you won't have transformation. There's no way you won't be deeply connected and have some crazy breakthrough. I mean, I know this is probably TMI, but I'm going to say
Mhm.
it. Like, I never believed that you could spontaneously orgasm from breath work, but you can, and it is incredible. And so, like, even if that's just a little bit intriguing, like, how would life be different if you're able to learn how to energetically orgasm? I mean,
Mm,
it blows the mind, and it didn't take a ton of time, right? It was
mhm,
just you teach your body new things and your body wants to meet you there. So
mhm,
the whole thing, the whole experience has been so eye-opening and so beautiful. And I think it works really well with my personality too, to, you know, be in that state of constant connection.
mhm. Yes, yes, absolutely. You're a true tantrika, I would say.
You allowed it to be so. You guided me to the right places, and I could not be more thankful. So thank you for
Mm,
everything. It's been wonderful. I love it.
mm. Thank you so much, Amy, for this
You're
interview. I
welcome.
deeply appreciate you and looking forward for next time.
I know. We've got so much more fun coming.